Welcome. Good evening, knitting friends. Welcome to the Zen Yarn Garden Tutorial Tuesday. We're knitting socks for October. So we're glad to have you here. Welcome. I do want to get started because we have a lot of ground to cover tonight with our socks. My name is Shayna Billow. I'm a knitting teacher and knitwear designer from Northern New Jersey. And I do a lot of work designing for Zen Yarn Garden and teaching and doing knit-alongs with them. And we are so pleased to have you here tonight. It is our 30th Tutorial Tuesday, and you can access previous Tutorial Tuesdays on the Zen Yarn Garden YouTube page. So if you're curious what we've covered in previous months on previous tutorials, please check in on that. I would like to introduce my co-host, Suzanne.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Nielsen, and I'm helping out with the chat today. So make sure to open your chat. I'll be asking questions for the giveaway. I do get to give away another two $20 gift certificates this session. So we'll be asking a question, and I think that's all I have today.
Very nice. So I know the main colorway that we were recommending for the socks is the new Xena colorway from Zen Yarn Garden. And Xena is the brand new Zen dog. She's delicious and cute. And this color is phenomenal and luscious. Today I'm doing kind of an acid yellow, like a mustard color, so that everybody can see what I'm working on. But I can't wait to knit up a pair in that yarn myself. So without further ado, let's get into shaping our socks. The first step of our sock, I'm sure you've all started your socks from last week with Suzanne. The first step is knitting this heel gusset. So that's going to be the back of the sock on the heel. So I have another pair of socks that's just ready right now for that step. So we're going to start right away. Okay, so on the rye sock pattern, we'll follow what they say here, but I will give everybody a little extra tip. What we're going to do is knit across half of our stitches, the stitches that are in pattern here. So I'm doing the third size. I'm making a pair of socks for my son. So for me, I'm knitting 18 stitches. All right, and I'll try to speed it up. And then we're going to place those 18 stitches onto a stitch holder to hold them until later. Okay. And as a little tip for you, I'm going to follow the pattern verbatim so that nobody gets lost, but you could also leave those 18 stitches on the needle, provided you don't forget that you're not supposed to work them. So I will slide these stitches right over onto my holder, but again, you don't have to necessarily use a holder. I'm just doing exactly as the pattern says today. All right, so I've got those 18 stitches, half of my stitches on a stitch holder. And then with the other 18 stitches, I'm going to begin the heel flap. And the first row of the heel flap is a right side row, and the pattern calls for us to slip the first stitch. When we slip these stitches at the edge of the work, we're going to slip them purlwise, which means our needle goes straight down the stitch as though we were about to purl a stitch, but my yarn is on the wrong side of the work. My yarn is towards the back or the inside of the sock. So I'm going to slip that stitch over like a purl, and then I'm going to knit the remaining stitches of that row. So in this case, my half of the stitches, 18, minus the first one that I slipped. So I'm knitting 17 additional stitches here. Okay, there we go. So I'm getting to the end of the work, or the end of the row. So that's my first row. My second row is going to be a wrong side row. I'm now working back and forth on these stitches. Previously, I had been working in the round, but now I'm actually looking at the purl side of my work, the inside of the sock. I'm going to bring the yarn to the front so that it's in the inside of the work and slip that first stitch purlwise. So the key with the heel flap here is to slip your first stitch purlwise to create these little ridges here, these little lines on the side of the work. This is where we'll be picking up stitches for the gusset. Okay, so here we go. We're purling to the end of the row, or the end of this half of stitches, of course. And that would be the first two rows of the heel gusset. Now the pattern or I'm sorry, the heel flap, excuse me, the back of the heel, not the gusset. The gusset's a different part. So here we go. I'm getting to the end. So this is the basic pattern for the heel flap, the back of the sock, where we slip one stitch at the beginning of the row and then work to the end of the row and then slip one stitch and work to the end in stockinette. All right, so we would repeat this until we have this depth, whatever the pattern calls for. So in my case, I had to work those 2 rows a total of 8 times. So I have 16 rows right here from here to there. I've got 16 rows depth for that heel flap. All right, so that is the heel flap. I can do 2 more rows if you like. I'll try to knit speedily. And then we'll talk about the heel turn and the gusset. All right, so again, for my right side rows on the heel flap, I'm going to slip the first stitch purlwise just over to my right hand needle. So just to show you that again, my needle is going down the stitch to slip it over. And what that does is it keeps the stitch upright so that it doesn't get twisted. And then I'm knitting to the end of the heel flap. And then I turn, and now I'm going to slip the first stitch on this side. In this case, my yarn is in the front because I'm on a wrong side row. I want that yarn always to be to the wrong side when I slip the first stitch of the row. Yes, Sharon, I am a fast knitter. Usually in classes, I knit English style so that I go a little slower, but here I want to make sure that I get to the really exciting part, which is the heel turn. All right, so we're going to slip this stitch over like a purl with my yarn in front this time because I'm on the wrong side. And I think the pattern doesn't necessarily say that, but that's just my knitter's intuition that I am sharing with you. Okay, so I'm speeding along to the end, and this will mark my 4th row out of 16. So one way to keep track of that is, of course, to jot down every time you do a row. That would be fine. Another way to keep track of it, which is one of my favorite ways, if you're comfortable counting rows, you can stick a stitch marker in right here. This was the row where I split the work. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows completed past there. And I just counted backwards from the one on the needle to see where I would place my marker. So I would count my 16 rows from there. All right. So if you want, what do you think, Suzanne? Should we take our little commercial break?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. All right, everyone, open your chats and let's see what questions. So what percentage, well, I'm going to take the third. I'm going to take the third answer here. So what percentage of stitches do you put on for your heel? Do you work on for the heel flap? Yes, yes. Okay, everybody, good job, guys. Let's see, the third person.
We definitely have a winner.
Barbara Morgan, you are our winner. So send your email to Zen Yarn Garden or to myself, and we will get you your gift certificate. So congratulations. Yay. And I think we'll do another one at the end, I think, right?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, we have our second gift certificate. So fabulous.
So, and if you have any, questions, feel free to stick them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that too while Sheena's, teaching.
On doing our sock thing. Excellent. All right. Well, welcome back from our brief commercial break. As a reminder, these videos will be up on the Zen Yarn Garden Facebook page and their YouTube page. So you can certainly access all these tips that I'm giving again. All righty, so now I'm going to go over to my second sock. And as a side note, I happen to knit socks this way. When I do knit socks, I'll knit the cuff, the heel, the foot, the toe. I like that, keeps me in having momentum. I think Suzanne's knitting right now 2 socks at the same time on the circular needles, which is really cool.
Yeah, I do the same kind of thing. And it's just because then if I don't have to count like how many I did for the cuff or how many extra I did, then I can just do the same on both ones. But you can see here, once you get to the heel, so I'm still like have both of them on the needles, but I switched to working back and forth to do the heel flap. So you do the heel flap like individually on this one and then go on to the heel flap on the other, even if you're working 2 at a time socks on the same needles. So
cool. Lots of fun tricks, right? Okay, so I'm switching back over to this sock that I have ready now for our heel turn. So with this heel turn, we're working short rows, but don't be scared. We're not doing wrap and turns or German short rows or anything. What we're actually doing is just rows that are stopped short of the end. So it's a little different if you've done previous short rows. It's a little different from that. Okay, so we're starting our right side row with a slip 1, and then we're going to knit, in my case, 10 stitches. Here you want to follow the pattern. You're not going to the halfway point, you're going a little bit beyond that. That's a good question, Linda. Is the length of the heel flap critical to a nice fitting sock around the ankle? Yes, you don't want that too deep because that's where your gusset gets involved too. The depth of the heel flap helps create the size of the gusset. So this part here in our pattern. So yeah, if that's too wide and deep or too shallow, it could mess with the size of the fit. All right, so we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now the pattern calls for me to do a decrease right here, an SSK. So an SSK decrease, slip a stitch like a knit, slip another stitch like a knit, insert the left-hand needle into the fronts of the 2 stitches from left to right, and then wrap the yarn around the right-hand needle and bring through. So that's a decrease that slants to the left. And then knit 1 and turn the work. So this is the short row. It's not a completed row. And that's how we're going to get that little cup at the back of the heel. Now, row 2, I'm going to slip 1, again, purlwise. Then I'm going to purl 5, according to my size in the pattern. Again, yours will be a little bit different depending on your size. All right, so I had a slip 1, a purl 1, and I've done 3, 4. So let's see, a slip 1, purl 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. Then I'm going to purl 2 together. Purl 1 more stitch past that purl 2 together and turn. And you might be thinking, what's with the SSK and the purl 2 together? That's how we are creating the short rows. That's how we are closing up the edges of the short rows. So right here where I turned, you can see this big gap. Watch as I work row 3. I'm going to slip 1, knit to 1 stitch before the gap. Okay.
And we did have a question, Shada, come up, how you know how many to knit. So for your size, the pattern said 10.
Exactly.
For other sizes, it depends on how wide your heel flap is, how many stitches you'll be working.
Yeah,
so it will tell you the pattern. Yeah,
usually it's like a couple past the center and then you turn it back around. And at this point, I'm now working back and forth equally. So I have a gap here of like 4 stitches. So it works out. Usually, yeah, you trust the pattern on that. So here I am 1 stitch before my previous turn, before the gap, and I'm going to slip, slip, knit. So you'll notice the stitches I'm SSKing are the 2 on either side of the gap. So that's really what closes up the gap. SSK, knit 1, and turn the work. I'm going to start doing continental. All right, so I'm going to slip 1, purl to 1 stitch before the gap. And I think I might be off by a stitch. I wonder if I actually knit 11 at the beginning. I might have, because I'm noticing, yep, oh boy. Well, gang, guess what? You get to see me rip, which is so fun. All right, so when I rip, I'm going to do this my quick way. Oh boy. It's one of those days, you know, we've all done it. So I'm just going to quickly, I'm going to save a lot of this actually. So pardon me, I'm so sorry. This is like knitting teacher's worst nightmare, right? Once I actually cut a sweater. Fortunately, it was mine. During a finishing class, I cut an actual sweater. while I was trying to demonstrate something. That was not a cool thing either. But all is well. In fact, I'm actually wearing the sweater right now. Okay, so here we go. Let's go back to the beginning there. So I did a slip 1, knit 10, 5, 10. Yeah, I had knit 11. So whoops. All right, SSK. I'll get into my continental knitting now, so I go a little faster. Knit 1. Then I'm going to turn, and I'm going to slip 1, purl 5, 3, purl 2 together.
So that is a mistake that you would want to take out and redo.
But you know what's
Right?
strange? I'm noticing here there's still 4 stitches and 3 stitches. So did I start with the wrong number? Let's see. 5, 10, 15, and I was supposed to have 6, 18 on the flap. This is curious. All right, I'm going to fudge a little bit. That's what I will do, and I will fix this for, next week when we're looking at the gusset.
Yeah,
So slip 1.
What size are you working on, Shayna?
I was doing the 3rd size. I guess I was supposed to have 18, but perhaps I only have 16. Oh no, I would have had 5, 10, 15. Yeah, I'm one short somehow, which is strange. So I'm going to SSK at the gap and then knit 1 more stitch, turn around. So yeah, you should have an even number of stitches on each side after you've done the purl row. All right, so this is kind of an interesting lesson, right? Because I mean, on the bright side, we're all seeing we're seeing what would happen if you ended up with the wrong number. All right, so I'm going to purl these 2 together, the one before the gap with the stitch after the gap. And then I'm going to purl 1. So ideally, I would have the same number of stitches right now on the sides of my gaps. So right now I have 1 over here and 2 over there. That was the indicator to me that there was some sort of issue. So the way I'm going to fudge this, slip 1, knit to this stitch here. I'm going to SSK, those 2 together, turn again, slip 1, and now I'm going to purl to my gap. Yeah, I was just 1 short, so that's okay. My son won't notice. He'll still love the socks. Here we go. So now I'm purling to 1 stitch before the gap. I'm going to purl these 2 together and purl 1. So according to the pattern, I should have 12. I suspect I will have 11, 5, 10, 11. Whoops, that's okay. All right, well, I can make up for that in the decreasing. So this is essentially the heel cup. And you can see right here, there's a very subtle curve right at the outer edge. That's where your heel sits in the sock as you wear it. So that's the bottom of the back of the heel. All right, so now for the gusset and the foot, we're going to start by knitting across the heel stitches. That's what's going to finish our heel turn. And what I could do here to make up for my lost stitch is at the end scoop 1 up, which would have been my knit stitch anyway on the next row. So I'm going to kind of sneak 1 in there at the edge. Okay, so that would be the heel turn, and now I have my 12 stitches. And these kind of fudges that I just did there, it depends what your knitting style is. If you want everything to be precise, then you wouldn't do that. You would probably rip back to here, redo the heel flap with the right number of stitches. But sometimes I go a little rogue, and that's okay. I can live with it. All right, so now,
before you get on to the next one, we had a question. What cast on method did you use?
Oh, over here, I used a long tail cast on, but you can use one of those, like the German twisted cast on is a nice one that gives it a stretchy edge, but I find that my long tail is fairly stretchy, so I used that. Thanks, Anne. That's a good question. All right, so here we go. I've now got this situation. I've got my heel flap. I've got the heel turn. And now I'm ready for the gusset and the foot. So today what we're going to do as our last step, I'll show you how to pick up the stitches from here, work across these and pick up the stitches from here as well to create the foot of the sock again. And then we will talk about decreasing next week, actual knitting of the gusset. Okay, so right here, I'm at the end of my heel turn. I've knit across my heel stitches, so I have the right side facing. I'm going to now pick up 10 stitches across here in this space. And what you're going to do to pick up, and I'll show you both in English and in continental method. I'll start continental. We're going to turn the work a bit so that we can see those slip stitches that we did at the edge of the work. I'm going to insert my needle under a slip stitch, the two legs of the slip stitch, wrap the yarn around like I'm knitting, and pull it through the slip stitch. So I put my needle under the slip stitch at the edge, wrap my yarn around like a knit, and then bring it through. If you are an English or American style knitter, you would put your needle under the slip stitch at the side of the work. And again, I'm really uncurling it so I can make sure I'm not skipping any pieces. So my needle goes under this stitch here, wrap the yarn around, and then bring the needle through. So I go in, I wrap the yarn, bring that new stitch out, there she is, and continue. So I'm picking up under each one of those slip stitches. And now naturally here, I'm just gonna, thank you. Naturally here, you should have, since I knit 18 rows, I would, no, not 18 rows, I did 16 rows, excuse me. I would have 8 slip stitches on the side of the work. So we're gonna squeeze an extra 2 stitches in. So here's my 5, 10, 12. I picked up 8 already. I need to squeeze 2 more in right here. So my trick at the heel turns, I go under this stitch right here. And then I like to pick up in this column right here. This straight column here to bridge the gap between these flat stitches and the stitches that were on the front of the foot. So I'm going right in here, wrapping the yarn around like a knit and pulling up and through. Okay, so after I've done that, I'm now going to take my next double pointed needle and I'm going to knit across the top of the foot. So these stitches here. And the way we left it in the pattern, I'm actually going to be doing that purl patterning. So I'm knitting 3 stitches for my size and then purling across 12. And these are great, the double-ended stitch holders if you have them. Because you can just knit right off of them, no matter which side you slid your stitches onto. So I highly recommend those. Okay, so I've got that, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there's the front of my foot, the side of one gusset, and the back of the heel, or the bottom of the heel. And then with a third double point, I use double points when I knit small circumference knitting. You may use magic loop or 2 circulars, whatever you're comfortable with, it's all good. Okay, then here I'm going to pick up my 10 from here to there in the same way. I'm going to start in this nice clean looking column right here and grab 1 stitch. Then I'm going underneath the first slip stitch, 1, or that's 2, 3. So again, we're uncurling the edge so we don't skip anything, going under the slip stitch, wrapping, going into the split stitch, wrapping the yarn like you're knitting, and then pulling through. Okay. So go in, wrap the yarn like you're knitting, and bring it through. And our goal is 10 along this side, so let's see what we've got. 5, 10, fabulous, because I picked up 1 stitch extra in that corner there, which also helps close up the gap of the corners. Then the next detail in the pattern would be to knit halfway between the back of the heel turn. So I had 12 stitches. Well, we all know I really had 11, but that's our secret. I'm going to knit 6 of those stitches, so half of the 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There we go. And now this is the new beginning of my round right here. So I would just place a stitch marker right in between those 2 double points to indicate the beginning of the round. And so this is what we've got, that little the opening right here for my heel and the top of my foot to sit in. And then over the week, what I will be doing is working the gusset, and I will demonstrate this, of course, next week too, in our tutorial Tuesday, where we start decreasing here and here to get back to our original number of stitches, which in my case was the 36. So right now I've got what, 10 plus 6, 18. I've got 16, 16, 32, and 18. So I've got 50 stitches. I need to decrease back down to 36. So that's the goal. That's the name of the game. So we did it.
Good job.
Thank you all for bearing with me with my error there. That was very exciting. I wonder if I dropped a stitch somewhere. What a mystery. I'm going to have to look into that over the week and I'll report back.
Check your other sock, right? You see.
Does anyone have any questions for me on this? We've covered a lot of ground today. The heel is kind of a very important part of the sock, really. It's the most challenging part, and it does do a lot for the fit, the gusset and the heel. So,
and I still have one more gift certificate.
Oh, that's right, Suzanne.
So, and I wanted to show, because I have a different color. I have not color, same color, but I have the nightshade worsted version. So this is nightshade worsted again in the Xena colorway. But because it has that strand of black in it, that's really, it makes it kind of fun. So anyway, see that up close and personal. All right, so my next one, I'm going to take the first person on this one. So get your chats ready. What color were Shayna's nails? All right, good job, guys. So Joan Matlock, is that it? You're the winner. So yay, go ahead and send your email to Zen Yarn Garden and we'll get you your gift certificate.
Congratulations. Yeah,
They're
my
so
sister
pretty,
recommended. My sister told me I should go for red over pink because it's more autumnal. So,
oh yes, and you can see it really well when we can.
Yeah,
like,
I thought it was a nice contrast with the yarn. Like they're kind of funky colors, so it all worked. Yes, it all worked out. Well, thank you all so much. Please let us know if you have any questions, and we so look forward to knitting with you again next week. We'll be talking about the gusset and where to place the decreases, and then sort of talking a little bit about the toes too. Oh, great, Anne. Anne's ready to tackle socks. So, oh, and Xena is Roxanne and Neville's dog. Roxanne and Neville own Zen Yarn Garden. They just got the beautiful Xena. Oh, wow. We've got a couple questions popping in. That's great. So magic loop is where you use one circular needle and it holds all of your stitches, a long circular needle, and you let it go flat to hold half of your stitches on one side and half on the other. Yep, Suzanne's got it going on.
So you've got in magic loop, you have a loop that comes out. So you have like half of your stitches that sit on one side and then the other half on the other, and you have these kind of loops that come out on either side. This is like double magic because I'm doing 2 at a time socks, but that's the general idea for magic loop. And we did cover it a little bit the first week, so you can go back and look at that video too.
And then another question, how do you prevent yarn from tangling when doing magic loop? I don't know.
Yeah, with doing to it, I'll show you. I don't normally use a yarn bowl, but I have this awesome one that I love. And so I am using a yarn bowl here, and it helps because I'm pulling from the inside and the outside. So maybe a yarn bowl might help to keep things from tangling quite so much. I find with magic loop, if I just kind of hold the stitches and twist, then I don't, if I'm just doing like one circle with magic loop, I don't have too much of a problem with it. I also love the Chaogu needles because you can also push them. So you can push them through into your stitches instead of just pulling. I don't know. I don't have any other good tips for that.
Oh, that's neat. I never thought about that as a benefit with the Chaogu needles.
Yeah,
That's a total benefit. Yeah, that you can
it
push it.
is.
I never thought about that.
Mhm.
One thing I do when I'm working with multiple balls, if I want to avoid tangling, but I don't know if it could work with magic loop. Whenever you turn your knitting, like, and switch to the opposite hand, often, and if you think about this as you knit, you bring one hand in front of the other. So you're constantly turning. For me, I'm turning the
Yeah.
stitches counterclockwise. So I try every other row to turn clockwise, and that
Yeah.
sometimes detangles the yarn. So
Yes,
if
that's a
I'm
good idea. Yep, I do
yeah,
that also.
just
Mhm.
as a little thought. And then we had a couple other messages, toe up socks. That would be a really fun series. We will talk.
Yes,
Oh, and Ellen puts one ball on the left side and one ball on the right side.
that's a good way to do it
Um,
too. Yeah.
oh, where would you attach a different color if you wanted the heel in a different color? It's a little tricky with this style of sock because our gusset is knit as part of the foot of the sock. You might want to look into afterthought heels as a side note, or
And
short row
Shayna
heels.
has a pattern, right? You have
I
a
will. Yeah, it'll be coming out in like a
oh not
month.
yet. Okay, a month.
It
Sorry.
will. It's really fun, and it would be gorgeous in Zen Yarn Garden yarns, obviously. But here, I guess you could do the back of the heel flap. So you would start with the heel flap with a new color, and then maybe what you would do is the heel turn in the new color, and then switch back to your main color for the sock. If you wanted to do a different color heel on this style of sock. Awesome question, Barbara. Thank you. Oh, toe up, two at a time on 2 needles. Okay.
It's
Wow.
the same, yeah, same kind of process. You kind of get started with your needles held together. You kind of hold your needles together and you would just, cast on for one sock and then pick up a different yarn and cast on for the other sock using your, usually I think most people for toe up socks would use like Judy's Magic cast on for that.
Yeah.
So yes,
Very
that
cool.
maybe we have to do another tutorial.
I know. It sounds like we have a lot of sock enthusiasts here. Very cool. Well, thank you all so much. This has been a treat, and please feel free again to view the video on YouTube or the Zen Yarn Garden Facebook page. It was very nice having you here, and thank you to Zen for hosting these tiny tutorial Tuesdays. So
Thank you. We'll see you again next week.
Bye. Thank you.